Hey comrades, what's up? Hope everyone's doing great. We're gonna talk a little bit about Nikke, yeah. We're gonna do See You Again, which is the event that follows Blue Water Island, but we're also gonna talk about Mighty Tools, because fuck it, why not? We have some space available for them here, or since I haven't gotten to them, and it's already like number 18 of these fucking event stores. Then we'll talk about the two new characters from the event, Helm Aquamarine, Ein Summer Sizzle, something like that, and then and also Helm's treasure story, which takes place after Helm Aquamarine. Okay, all makes sense. Good. So first off, let's start with Leader, who's the squad leader of Mighty Tools. So Leader is visiting the outpost, and it's disgusting. She calls for the counters and shows them, and they're all like, whatever, YOLO, and she's like, no low. So she makes them clean till it's spotless. Ains bites a bit Rappy, makes her continue. Once it's all done, her and Balt smell something. The showers are fucking filthy. From there, a construction site, the cantina, and several other places, until they get to our room, and the whole time Ainz has been complaining and fighting back and everything. And that is when Leader brings up that Ainz is the main culprit of the mess, that she's causing all the mess. Ainz denies this, but when Leader is about to dump out some of the stuff that we cleaned up so the commander can look through it and see that it's Ainz undergarments, our primary issue, Ainz gives up. It was her. Leader lectures her, then says she's going to be watching and guiding Ainz in cleaning up herself and the areas around her. At this point, a battle between them begins. They go back and forth. It escalates pretty quickly. Ainz says some pretty fucked up stuff to Leader about how not knowing what it's like to lose someone on the surface and whatnot. And then Ian knocks Ainz out and drags her away. Leader sulks away because definitely she has lost somebody on the surface. And that just leaves us and Senti, who are like, huh. A few days later, Ainz refuses to get out of bed, claiming she is exhausted from all this cleaning and everything else. We also can't get in touch with Leader. At that point, Senti shows up and tells us where she is. She's at a park with Bolt. So we head there and find them playing. Sitting down with Leader, she tells us that she doesn't like seeing young Nikkes give up on living a good life. She talks about Senti and how she's training her to become like the leader of Mighty Tools and take over that whole section of like the missless system. We tell her that she should have just told Ainz everything that was going on with her and why she was fighting so hard, and that Ainz would have listened a lot better. And she's like, yeah, I should have, instead of fighting with her. So we then head to the outpost to go see Ainz. Leader tells her to look up Josh Hewitt. And Ainz does, but it says there's nothing here except that he died. And then Leader tells us about his life. He was her commander. He was honorable, and he died to a rapture while saving a Nikke. Leader tells us about that we are very similar to Josh Hewitt, and then talks about how Ainz, that it's important to live a fulfilling life, and that cleaning is preparation for all this, for living a good, clean life. And finally, Ainz is like, all right, I get it. That's fine. She's still very reluctant to clean up the outpost with Leader, but they work together on changing her ways and getting her to be less of a slob. Later on, we talk to Leader. She says that Ainz has a long way to go, but that she's a good kid, and that she reminds her of herself when she was younger, and that she needs to just keep up and keep working and living a fulfilling life, which ends her Bond story. Next up is Senti, the other member of Mighty Tools. So the counters at some point are like, hey, you do a lot of consulting. You help a lot of Nikkes out. You should start an actual business and charge them money, a consultation business, since we're always helping. And that, in fact, there's already a request. And it's Senti. She wants to become the queen of architecture. So she comes over. We talk about it. We say we don't know anything about architecture, but she says, no problem. We just need to get your bond level up. Which is fair. And it's funny that this and Maxwell both bring up the bond level thing. Anyway. So we go to find out a lot, and tell her to, we talk about it a lot and tell her like, hey, just build whatever, we trust you. While she's doing that, she breaks a water main, and so we run off. And it's easier than taking the blame for fixing it. Senti gets it's easier to fix it than take the blame, blah, blah, blah. Senti goes and gets some materials to fix it and has to take like a line of credit to do it. But that's okay. We're going to find some jobs to pay it back. So we go and work for Jan. She has a new store, and the old contractors fucked it up, and she needs it fast. So we get to work, and we go and we fix it up, and Senti makes it, and it's super nice inside. So nice that Jan is like, this is too nice. It's supposed to be a middle-class neighborhood store, not something on the fucking rural road. Here's money, but, don't ever do this again. All right, let's try this again. So we look for more work, but no one ends up hiring us. And then what about working on buildings in the outpost? That sounds good. They get hired to build a restaurant and an inn on the... So while we're kind of working on that, Senti gets contacted to build a restaurant inside of an inn on the rural road, or hotel. So we go with her to work really hard in the restaurant, and we have absolutely no instruction. So Senti just kind of wings it, and it looks super good. And it's so good, the client is like, holy shit, this is amazing. At least the customer area. And then he walks us over to the kitchen, and he's like, the kitchen looks exactly like the customer area. And then we're like, ruh-roh. Because clients generally want kitchens to be a kitchen, not like the same area as like the dining area. But the clients love everything about it. The whole place is very fashionable, and the kitchen ends up being extremely usable, even though it has a similar like decoration or different same kind of style as the main place. And so then he's like amazed and is like, this is awesome. Here's a bunch of money. At that point, we start getting a lot of we get a call from Leader a bit later, and she's so grateful that we helped Senti out because Senti has tons of requests to do things. Like the restaurant is such a hit that many other people are calling her to like do construction and work on things. And we talk about how Senti's grown and how in sync we are with her because of our bond growth, which is literally what's happening when we do these bond stores. She then mentions then we talk to Senti, and she mentions that she bought a whole bunch of materials on credit again, and that we need to get building right away. And we think about how we still have a long way to go to completely sync up with Senti because she needs to stop taking fucking things on credit. But oh well, we head out to work with her, which ends her bond story. Now's the event, See You Again, which focuses heavily on Helm and Ainz because they get new models. And not like new skins, they get like brand new, essentially Nikkes with different powers and whatnot. So we get this little story at the beginning. It's something is waiting for its moment to be the savior. That's how all stories go. And then we begin the actual story. Over at the outpost, the AC is broken, so we're hot as shit. So Anderson summons us, and for the first time ever, we're like, yes, get us the fuck out of here. So we head over there. He talks about Blue Water Island. They're still getting that, like, they're still getting some sort of, like, signal from the water. They're concerned it's a high level like rapture or whatever, so we need to go figure it out. And then once we kind of get that figured out, we can vacation a little bit, and we're like, baller, let's do it. As soon as we walk out the door, we call Helm because she's going to come along too, because she's a water-based Nikke that ages, right? And so we head back to the office, and the whole crew's there, the whole crew from Blue Water Island. So we got Mary, Pepper, Rappy, Ainz, Neon, Freema, and Jan, and Leader. And finally, Helm shows up. She's super excited to finally be able to be of use on the surface and not just stuck doing fucking fundraisers all the time. So she goes to tell Mass and Anchor that they're going to go on a sea adventure. They, of course, think she's joking, and then she leads them over to Birmingham. And she asks for the whole Admiral to be able to go out and help with the surface mission. He's like, no, there's a party. They argue about it, and then Helm leaves with Aegis and no Admiral. At that point, Mass and Anchor clean up and set up for a party faster than ever. And then they tell Helm this, and like, hey, the party is super ready to go and everything. And then Helm's like, that is amazing. We can all go together. And then Mass and Anchor are like, no, you're going to go. We did this so that you could go. We still can't go. We have to stay here and run the party and everything. But we got you permission to be able to head out on the surface. Helm feels really bad about this, but she comes along anyway. And they tell her to make them proud as she goes out. So she comes and meets up with the rest of us as we head out. And then Jan mentions having something for everybody just like last time. It's swimsuit time. We get back to Blue Water Island. We examine all the structures just last time. Like, everything's good. Everything's looking great. Leader is like, of course, everything's great. I built it. Then Rappy, Helm, and us, we go check out the signal, but we can't find anything anywhere. And it's like, all right, well, let's check underwater. And so we head back out with Helm. Oh, no, we head back so Helm can put on her swimsuit. And then she gets nabbed up by... first we get Neon again with her super awesome wet tits. And then... And then Ainz drags Helm to go change. There's like a whole thing where they're like chit-chatting and giggling, and Ainz is like, ooh, let me touch that. Right, obviously. So, and Neon and us are waiting outside the waiting room, and Neon starts to get hot and bothered. She's like, man, it sounds really fun in there. They come out. Helm is super embarrassed. So she's wearing a swimsuit, but she's wearing like her fucking like white button up on top of it. And then Ainz is like, oh, you're still really cute. And then Ainz is wearing her new swimsuit, which is super sexy, obviously. Rappy comes over to get us, and on the way we get to see all the girls in their swimsuits, which is excellent. Very nice. Over at the water, Helm dives in for a swim. She doesn't find anything, but does feel a strange vibration. When she comes out, she mentions it, and no one else senses this vibration. Oh, well, if we can't find anything, that means there's nothing here, and it's time to party. And then Helm's like, no, we should go back, since it's the surface and it's dangerous. And then everyone's like, oh, Helm, Jesus Christ. All right, fine, but one day we get a party. And then Helm's like, okay, I guess so. So she sulks and wanders off. And then Jan reveals that she brought a ton of, like, food, like meat and stuff. And then Neon takes over as, like, the barbecue master. And in this event, there's a game where you just barbecue, and it's actually pretty fun. You can, if you're playing Nikke right now, you can play it in the little arcade. Anyway, apparently Neon is a master, like a grill fucking master. Like everything she makes is like amazingly delicious, and she does an excellent job of it. But she's also kind of like a soup Nazi about it, or grill Nazi. But yeah, everyone, even Jan's like, this is like some of the best food I've ever had. You should own your own restaurant. And then Helm is like not enjoying it at all. She's just being a sulcopotamus because her team's gone, and there's no reason for her to come out here. She should just stay and do the party. And Helm is just a big Debbie Downer, generally, in my opinion. She has a lot of fans, but I don't really get it. Anyway. So Ains decides she's going to grab some food, head over to Helm. They talk about why she's concerned, and that she still feels like there might be something in the water, but we need to get some sort of like real time tracker in there. So they go and talk to Leader, and Leader's like, yeah, that's fine. If you give me a GPS receiver from the cell phone, I'll be able to do it. And they're like, oh, what cell phone should we use? And she's like, the newest one available. And Ains is like, ruh-roh. So they gather all the phones and Ain was upset because she has the newest phone. And she's like, I don't wanna. And so we convince her to do it, and we'll get her a new phone when we get back. So she's like, okay, fine. So Leader takes the phone apart and creates this like real-time tracker. Later on, everyone's chilling, and there's an argument about the shower schedule and stuff, and Freema wins because Freema. And then Ains goes with us to find Helm, who is chatting with Mast on some sort of like communication device. Mast is like, you need to stop worrying and having fun. And so then we talk to her after she hangs up. She gets mad about us harassing her to have fun, and then she keeps mentioning these vibrations. Then Leader runs up, and she's like, there's something huge under the water. The thing just picked up that I built. And Helm leads the way to go over to where it is. So we rush over, and then we see tentacles come bursting out of the water, and one of them strikes Helm, knocking her back. We then back up away from the water, and this giant creature, Kraken, which is a giant rapture, like a Tyrant class rapture, heads back down into the water. Rappy and the others come to check on us, and Helm's like, I know that rapture, it's Tyrant class Kraken, known as the black hole of the sea. It hasn't been seen in like 100 years. And then we talk about how it's been resting in the water because water type raptures need like a lot of energy to function, but there's not a lot of energy under the water, which seems kind of silly to me because they could just have some sort of like hydro generator. But anyway, so probably what happened is it was just like sleep mode until Leader started the generator, and then it came back to life because it absorbed a bunch of that energy. Leader's pretty skeptical about this, and we don't really get more into it, so it's up to you to decide if that's what happened or not. Einstein orders Helm to get help from Mary because she's clearly limping, and we head away. Later on, we find out that Helm's doing much better, and then we talk about how we got to get out of here and how we don't have the capability to like fight this thing, and then we need some help. Everyone agrees, and Leader mentions that Kraken has stopped moving. We then find it over by the land bridge, which is how we got over here. And it's like, well, maybe if we're super quiet, we can cross the bridge without it noticing. And we get to a certain part of the bridge, tentacles come up, so we retreat, and then they go down. So clearly it wants us here for some reason. Ains thinks it so it can feed on us. Helm wants to do another test. She goes out until the tentacles come to attack her, and then she runs away, and then the tentacles go back under the water. So yeah, it's definitely keeping us here trapped. And so we talk about like, well, we're gonna run out of supplies and like maybe we could use a boat, but no, it'll sink the boat. And the Nikki's are totally fucking done if it sinks the boat because we're on like an island, so it's not like the water goes down real quick. So it's time to contact the Ark. So we try to get in contact with Anderson, but the communication is very short and broken. And then we're able to say like, Admiral, send help. Pretty much that's it. That's all that we can get through. And what are we going to do now? So Helm mentions that no matter what happens, we need to be ready to fight because we might just have to do that, especially if help's not going to come. So we agree to all rest and that someone will be on guard duty just to make sure the Kraken doesn't do anything crazy. Helm's like, I'm going to go first. And everyone's like, absolutely fucking not. You're injured. Go lay down. And like, what are you doing? And she's like, I want to be here. I want to wait for the Admiral. You told them to come. I know they'll come. I have faith. And so we talk about, no, you need rest, I need rest, come on, let's go. And so finally she agrees to head to rest, and that Mary says she's going to watch over her. We go to rest as well. While laying in bed, we hope that the Admiral will soon show up. Throughout the next day, the Kraken does nothing. So Helm goes out to check on it as part of her guard duty. Meanwhile, over at the Ark, Anderson fills Birmingham and Ingrid about how they need to deploy the Admiral to come rescue us and everybody else and to take care of Kraken, because they did get some information through, but even though the communication got dropped. And so at that point, it's time to wake up Mast and Anchor. So Mast and Anchor are woken. They don't know what's going on. Like, why are we being woken up all of a sudden? And they head out, and then they get told they're deploying. And they're like, no, get the fuck out of here. For real? And they're like, yes. So go to the Admiral and get it ready to go. When they get there, they find, like, 2 whole teams of mass-produced Nikkes getting, like, the Admiral elevator. There's, like, a whole elevator just for because it's so fucking big up to the surface. And then also the ship's capabilities and arming it and everything like that, because it hasn't been used in combat, like, ever. And it was built, like, decades ago, you know. And so they're all prepping the ship, and then Mast and Anchor are like, holy shit, I didn't know we had like these whole teams of like mass-produced Nikkes to help with this. And then Anchor's like, didn't Helm mention that one time we weren't paying attention? Mast is like, you're right, let's go pack our bags. And I'm like, all right. So they do that, and they come back, and the mass-produced Nikkes have figured it all out, have set everything up. The one thing they do learn, though, is that the cannon, the Aegis cannon, that it gets one shot because it was so it needs to be like completely replaced because it's been so disused and it's kind of rotted out or whatever. So if you're going to use it, make sure you get a good shot with that. Mast and Anchor then get ready to sail, and they're super shocked by the whole situation. And then they're like, all right, time to go. And they just stand there in like the helm of the ship, and they're like, how do we start this thing? And it's like, I don't know, it's another one of those things Helm told us that we didn't pay attention to. And Mast is like, I'm going to think real hard. And then she realizes it. And they're like, awesome. And so she finds like the key and starts the procedure. And then they shoot up the elevator and they get to the surface. And they're like, wow, it's so fucking beautiful up here. And it's like, this is amazing. The Admiral's finally on the surface. Heading back over to the island, we find out that Kraken has the island completely surrounded. So before, it may have just been in like by the land bridge, but now it's like anywhere you go on the island, it has like its tentacles wrapped around. This thing is like really fucking big. And then like no one has any ideas, and all of a sudden Freema speaks up. She's like, oh hey, maybe Kraken is just gonna run out of energy consumption. Like you guys mentioned, it took a lot of energy and it's doing a lot of stuff now, so maybe we just gotta wait it out. And then the Admiral will come, and everyone's like, that's cool. And then someone's like, let's build a lighthouse. And Slater sends everybody to get materials so that they can build a lighthouse, so the Admiral has an easier time finding them. While that's going on, Neon makes like a SOS with rocks, and we talk about that with her for a bit, and then Helm takes Ainz aside, and she's like, I'm shocked everyone believes that the Admiral is coming. And Ainz is like, oh, we don't. And Helm's like, what? And they're like, we believe in you, Helm, and because you believe, we're willing to like wait it out and figure it out. And that's super sweet, right? So a few days later goes by, the lighthouse is done, everyone's doing great, and then 2 more days later go by and everyone starts freaking out. Because we have like 2 days till the land bridge goes under. So we start discussing, and they're like, all right, well, the worst case scenario has arrived. The Admiral has not arrived, and we have to save the commander. So we're going to have to maybe just like wander out of here, and just some of us are going to have to die or get left behind because saving the commander is more important. And we're like, no, Nikkes are just important. Everyone's like, shut the fuck up. So we come up with this whole like funny plan. Helm's gonna go underwater. They're gonna be like a staggering system where like we try to like escape while everyone else kind of plays shield or like shoots the thing and whatnot. Things go well for a little bit, somewhat, and then the Kraken comes out with all its glory. And when it does, it shoots Helm out of the water as well. So the team goes back and forth with the Kraken, pushing forward slowly. Helm gets stabbed, and then gets grabbed and dragged under the water before she's like saved by Ainz. We are all able to dodge like another tentacle. Ainz gets hit pretty hard, so she has to be carried, and we're definitely on our back foot. Helm picks up Ainz and is like, we can still do this, let's do this. And then Rappy essentially grabs us and is like, let's go. Everyone else, you gotta like sacrifice yourselves. And we're like, no, that's ridiculous. And everyone's like, shut the fuck up. So the Nikkes create a shield, and Rappy picks us up and runs. And then at some point, Helm comes up and she's like, I got him. I'm injured, so you need to fight. And the Rappy's like, got it. So she like hands us off. And then Kraken launches some missiles. So then Helm grabs us and dives under the water, and we hear like the missiles going off. Ruh-roh. Back on the surface. Let's see. Oh yeah, back on the surface. We're able to keep pushing forward, and then Helm gets like knocked back into the water, and then she feels like she's gonna die this time. Like she got hit really hard, and she's like, "Fuck." And then she really gives herself a hard time for failing and not doing the right thing and everything. And then she sees this dark shadow over her, and she's like, "Wait a second, is that the Admiral?" And it is. So they pick up Helm, Mast, and Anchor, and they're on the Admiral. And then the Admiral starts firing missiles and cannon barrages and all this stuff at Kraken, and they shoot the shit out of it. And then they hit it with a direct hit from the Aegis cannon. And Helm is like, "Do it again!" And Mast and Anchor are like, "Oh, by the way, we can't do that." And then Helm's like, "Fuck, it's still going on. What should we do? Let's charge it." So they do. So they ram right into it, and the thing starts to rock, but then it starts to push back like the Kraken, even after the charge. And then all of a sudden, the Admiral starts charging itself up, and they're like, wait, what is happening? And so they keep firing on Kraken to distract it, and the Admiral charges itself up to 200% power, and then blasts the shit out of the Kraken. Like, it just blows a giant hole in it, and it fucking kills this thing for good. The girls are all crying and holding each other, Aegis, on the ship, and they're so happy. And then a bit later, the comms come back up, and then we get kind of like an epilogue, sort of. We talk about how we report back to Anderson, and then we officially get like a week vacation. Yan is tasked with collecting Kraken parts to bring back to study, and everyone's super excited, like all the researchers at MMR, because the first time the Ark has been able to examine a water-based rapture in like 100 years, which is super nice. Helm is very injured, but everyone else is okay. You know, Ainz is a little messed up, but Helm is like legitimately injured. And so now it's time to relax. All right, wasn't that great? So, very nice. A bit later, we are back at the Ark. We get a private party aboard the Admiral. So Helms gets to be in her like brand new day clothes from all the way back in the second event, which is excellent. And then this is the first time like Aegis gets to enjoy the splendor of the Admiral instead of having to clean up and do all this other stuff. And so they're having a great time. And then we finish up with a point of view from the Admiral. And so the thing that was speaking at the beginning about being a hero and a savior was actually the Admiral. And so the Admiral itself talks about how it's the strongest member of Aegis and how it's designed to save today and how it's the bestest thing ever, forever. Which wraps up the event. Now time to talk about Helm, Aquamarine, and Ainz, Summer. I don't remember the rest of it. Summer Sizzle. Let's see, I have it over here. Ainz, Sparkling Summer. There you go. All right, so Helm Aquamarine's story begins on Blue Water Island, obviously. So we end up having to do a bunch of reports while we're supposed to be on vacation, and so does Helm because she's a workaholic. So we knock him out. We're going to knock him out in one day, then it's vacation time. At some point, Ainz comes in. She needs new parts, so we're like, yeah, we can handle that. And then Helm's like, you coddle the counters too much. And we're like, no, the actual issue is, like, Ainz came in and asked for something very simple because she needs something much more because she's too prideful. And then she's like, oh, that's interesting. A little bit later, a leader comes in and she's like, I need a 2-day extension. So we give her a 3-day extension on this thing that she's working on. And then Helm, and she's super excited and all this stuff. And then Helm starts talking about how she wants to be a better leader like us, that how she tries to lead Mass and Anchor, but they're always angry and they always try to avoid things and they always try to do other things. And so we go out and we're like, okay, we're going to have you lead Freema and Yan because they're very much like Mass and Anchor in that they like to be independent and don't like to be told what to do. So this will be a good experience. And you're going to lead them in cleaning up a villa. So it's like, okay, cool. So she takes them over there, tells them what to do. Freema and Yan start fucking it up, and then Helm gets super frustrated and sends them away so she can clean by herself. Later on, when we come check on her, we're like, what the fuck happened? And she's like, well, they weren't doing a good job, and I just got to do it myself. That's always the way it works and stuff. We're like, all right, let's go for a walk. We need to figure this out. So then we take her to Freema's hammock, which is empty at this time. And then you're like, hey, go ahead and get in. And so she tries and she keeps falling out of it. And she's like, it's too hard. And then she like hangs her head waiting to be disciplined. And we're like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, if I give someone an order and they don't do it, I yell at them. And we're like, that's not what we're going to do. That doesn't make any sense. And so we talked to her about her work stress, balance, and about being leaders and the difference between our leadership styles and how, it's okay to say no to people, that you shouldn't feel like you're so accommodating to people so that you can feel less pressure. And also you need to be understanding of like other people and how they function and how they work, and that everyone's going to have the same desire to be a workaholic like you are. And she's like, okay. So then we spend some more time and she eventually figures out how to get in the hammock and she's like, join me. And so we hop in there and then she like says something about being in love with us and she gets super embarrassed about it. So then she runs off and we're like, what the fuck? The next day there's more paperwork. Since we skipped some time yesterday, Helm shows up. She's acting a little weird. We're like, hey, you okay? You're like feeling hot. Your heart's aflutter, all this stuff. And she's like, I gotta go. And then so she heads out. Once we finish with the paperwork, it's like the evening time and it's raining. So we grab an umbrella and go for a walk. And while we're out, we find Helm. We talked to her a little bit. She says something about, is it okay for like subordinates to date their like leaders? And we're like, well, I don't know, fresh transition in the military is kind of looked down upon. And she's like, oh, that's true, I guess that's fine. And she clearly is very disappointed because she wants to be with us, but she's like, I can't do it because and she talks about love and like feelings and stuff, and she gets really flustered. So then she starts avoiding us, and a few days later we track her down hanging out with Leader, and then she runs away, and Leader's like, boss, you gotta go fix this shit. And we're like, yeah. So we go track her down. We talk to her about how she feels, and we say something about how she needs to get an examination. And she's like, I don't want to do that. I got to get naked. We're like, yeah, we do that all the time. No biggie. So she does, and then we do it, and we're like, hey, you seem fine. You're just like flustered and like stuff like this. You seem nervous about something. And then she finally admits that she has feelings and doesn't know what to do with them. And so we kiss her, and then she gets like freaked out and steps back, and we stop her, and we're like, what's going on? Blah blah blah. And then she finally admits that she likes us and that she's excited about the kiss. So we kiss her again, and she's so shocked by the second kiss and how she's enjoying it that like her legs turn to jelly and she falls on the ground. And so then we sit down with her, and let's see, talk about the kiss. Oh, we talk about the kiss, and we kind of lay there, and then like we fuck, and then and then much later in the day we're all soaking wet from fucking. So that ends her Bond story. But we officially decide that we're going to be a couple at this point. This leads us right into her treasure story. So a bit later, we wake up like in our room, and Helm's there because we fucked all night. And then she whispers to us to keep sleeping, and we hear her taking a shower as we drift off. Eventually, she comes and wakes us up and reminds us that we got some old bullshit to do or whatever. And we're like, yeah, got it. A bit later on in that day, we go to a restaurant because we got a date with Helm. So we go and we talk about work and shit, and then we start to get kind of bored because she just keeps talking about work and Aegis and the parties and stuff. And she notices that we're kind of just like staring at her blankly, and she's like, what are you thinking about? And we're like, well, we're thinking about how beautiful and lovely you are because we're suave as the devil himself. But she doesn't believe it. So we talk about dating and talk about how we need to be more personal conversations, and she gets very nervous about being more personal and discussing her feelings more and stuff because this is all like new territory for her, and even though we're a couple, she doesn't feel super comfortable with it. And she also mentions that she's not good at it, and then she kind of changes the subject as we kind of put pressure on her. A bit later, she's in her room looking for something. When Mass and Anchor come in, they're like, oh, God damn it, Helm, it's the weekend. Why are you cleaning? And she's like, no, I'm not. Don't worry. I just was looking for something. And then she's like, what are you guys doing here? And then Mass is like, oh no, you're going to make us work? And she does like a very unflattering impression of Helm, and Anchor's like, that's perfect. And then Helm does like the exact same speech back at them because it was a perfect impression of Helm. Only this time, instead of saying you got to get back to work, she's like, all right, you two have the weekend off, go enjoy yourselves. And they're super confused. They don't know what to do. At that point, Helm finally opens the box that she found, and inside's a compass, which doesn't work because it's like an old-timey compass and something about like the electrical magnetic stuff in the Ark. Mass pulls out her compass, which is not an antique and is set to work within the Ark, and they talk about the differences and what the point of having it is. And then Helm mentions that she has a new goal in life, and this is going to help her figure it out. Later on, we're on another date with Helm at the mall, and we're going shopping and doing all this stuff, and we notice that she keeps looking at her compass, which we mistake for a watch of some sort or a clock. She then reveals that it's a compass, and she tells us that she got it when she first became like the leader of Aegis many years ago, and that she used it as like a guide to help her accomplish her goals and stay focused and stuff. She's then like, oh, I'm sorry for talking about work and all this stuff again. Let's go eat at a steakhouse. And we're like, no, we're going to do something else instead. So we drag her up to the surface. We find a nice place where we can like look at the stars. And we point at like the North Star and talk about navigating by the stars. And how we don't always need a compass in our life. Sometimes we can just go with like what feels good or do whatever. And Helm's reminded of like a very similar conversation she had with Mast earlier in that day. She then mentions all the things she wants to do with us, the first of this, the first of that, like, and she's so grateful that we were like part of like the first time she was in love, the first time she kissed, the first time she fucked, all that good stuff. And then she wants to spend some time out here alone with us doing stargazing. So she sets up some decoys for the raptors, and we head to the nearby ruins. And inside, Helm gets like real horny and real steamy super fucking fast. Like, she starts talking about how she wants us to be her first time, like she wants to be with us forever, and that the only first and only one. And then she pushes us onto a bed and climbs on top of us so we can bang. Which is the end of her treasure story. All right, and then the last thing we're going to talk about here is Ian's Sparkling Summer. I know, I finally looked it up, so I got it. And Einsparkling Summer is all about Eins and her new costume, and this essentially takes place before Helm Treasure, but I figure we do Helm Aquamarine and then Helm Treasure because we're back on Blue Water Island. All right, so we're trying to relax, and then Ein comes and drags us out and drags us over to Leader to get something, some mysterious thing she won't tell us about. And Leader's like, "You be careful with that crazy bitch." And so then Ein drags us over to like this cave, and it's super sketchy looking and completely dark. We're like, "We're not going to go in there." And she's like, "Come on, there's going to be treasure and adventure in there." And we're like, And then she pulls out this flashlight, which is what she got from Leader, and we're like, "Okay, fine." So she leads the way, and we're walking around, and then Ein starts to get scared. So she, grabs our arm and like gets real close, and we kind of make fun of her for like, "Hey, we were scared, and now you're scared. That's hilarious." And she's like, "Whatever." And then she steps on a trap, which causes a boulder to come down, like a fucking Indiana Jones style boulder. Like the fuck. And then Ein's like, "You better run, and I'll stop it." And we're like, "No, there's got to be a better way." And so we find like a crevasse that we can like hide in, and so we grab Ein's and squeeze in there with her, so her boobs are like right up into us. And we talk about how it's uncomfortable, but at least our lives are saved. When we head back out, the boulder has crashed into the entrance, so we can't get out. And then also it has destroyed the flashlight, so now we have no light. Some time goes by and our eyes adjust, and then we notice like some light coming from the crevasse that we were just in. So we squeeze on through there, and eventually it leads to a small door that we open up. And inside is this room that someone was clearly living in. They were hiding out from raptures and like all the craziness. But there's still some beer. There's like some light. There's some books and stuff. And then we find a journal. And the journal talks about a guy who's just sad because he came in here to survive, but now he's like all alone and he just misses other people, and how he's tired of living in this cave, even if it's safe, and he's going to go out and watch the sunrise, which is probably how he died, because that's the last entry in the journal. And so we talk about that. We talk about the guy who kept being optimistic despite everything that was going on, and we're still sad. So then Ein's like grabs our mouth and makes it a fake smile, and then we do the same thing to her, and we joke about how neither of us is really feeling optimistic or happy right now, but that we can help each other out, and that something about how we need to be more honest with our feelings and how we can trust each other and whatnot. At that point, we find another door in the back, and it's like, "Oh, this must lead out. Otherwise, why would there be another door?" And so we head out. We try to open the door, and it will not open. And then Eins is like, "Ha ha ha, you're a weak human." And then she does it, and it doesn't work. And in fact, she tears off the handle, and it's like, "Ha ha ha, you strong robot." You dumb bitch. Anyway, so we're like, fuck. So anyway, Eins is like, "Let's go check out the entrance. Maybe we can figure out something there." So we head over there. We get attacked by like a bat or something, and then there's no way to get out of there. So then we head back to the room. At this point, we discuss how like the door must be locked. That's why it's not opening. So, and there's no key or anything like that. So there must be some sort of like mechanism, like with the trap door, that opens it up. So we search around for something that's going to release it, and we don't find anything. And then at some point, we get all tuckered out. So we sit down on the bed, and then Ein sits next to us. And then we start like rubbing the dust off her. She starts rubbing the dust off us, and as you can tell, it starts to get like real handsy and steamy. And then we like get super horny, so we like lay down and grab Eins and pull her on top of us, right? And then she's starting to get like really hot and bothered. She's like, "I have something I want to tell you." And then right before she can tell us, she notices something, and she's like, "Wait a second." And then behind us on the bed are some dolls. She moves them aside, and there's a button, and that click opens up the door, so then we can get out of here. And this the door leads to another like hallway that goes to like this hill that overlooks the ocean. And it's we sit up there, and she drinks beer while we pretend to drink beer, because this is like, who knows how like 100-year-old beer is going to kill us, but she's a Nikke, so like she'll figure it out. And she loves to drink beer despite all the soda references in the game. And so then we talk about how we didn't find a treasure, but we did find a treasure. The treasure is the time we got to spend together. And then we're like, "So what do you want to tell us down there when we're about to fuck?" And she's like, and she leans over and whispers into our ear, but we don't find out as like the observers of this event, which is kind of fucked up. It was probably that she wanted to get fucked. And then we sit up for a little bit longer, and then she's like, "We better head back because others are probably going to get worried because they haven't seen us all day." And we like left to go in some sketchy cave, and we're like, "Sounds good." And so then we high five and wander back over to everybody else, which wraps up Eins Sparkling Summer's Bond story and this video. So go ahead, join me next week for Chapter 18 of the Nikke main campaign, or in 2 weeks for more fun Bond stories, tales, along with the next event, which I think is First Affection, which stars Marion after all the stuff from the side story Second Affection. Or is this Second Affection? Anyway, it stars Marion. Cool. Or Modernia if you want. So go ahead and like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.